Episode number 2 of KBS After Dark. I usually say, can you handle the woo, but this goes beyond the norm. Turn down the lights, it's gonna get a little bitty creepy around here on KBS After Dark, but only if you dare venture in to our woo zone right here on YouTube. KBS2, remember to like, remember to share, remember to subscribe. Yeah, a little bit different, Now, hang on, I've got 2 chat boxes flying about there. There we go. That won't be so confusing. How are you all doing out there? And welcome back to the second of our After Dark shows. It's something completely new that we're doing here in 2021 on KBS2. And it's where the woo really gets going tonight. I'm going to take you beyond the Twilight Zone. Yes, it's only for the really, you know, the most staunch devotee of the woo that makes it to the late night After Dark show. Yes, indeed. So I hope you're ready for 3 stories that I hope will not help you get to sleep at night. Liking the music as well. Yeah. Late night woo. Exactly. I have got stories tonight that get a load of this. We've got one about, it's a very disturbing story about a man in a very disturbed dog costume. Yes, we've got somebody that started a very strange night shift job. And be careful the next time you go down to the garden shed. That's all I'm going to say. So I hope you're all good out there. I hope you're all raring to go. A more run. We have got a new member coming in, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Thank you very much, Ron. Really appreciate that, man. Really, if you want to become a member of the channel, you don't have to, but if you want to, and I would love you to, you can do what Ron done. Click the button, join, and you too can be a part of all of the madness that we've got going here at KBS. And I think some of our more regular listeners will tell you there's a lot of madness to go around on KBS, and it's been a long day today, right? I'm actually quite surprised. Well, now that I look at the numbers, hey, there it is. I didn't think it was coming. There we go. Put him over here, right? How's that look? There we go. Thank you very much, Ron. What do you get for becoming a member? Well, you get access to all of our really cool emojis. We've got the My Pet Octopus Best Documentary of 2020 in the Kev Baker Film Awards. we've got an eyeball, we've got PPP, we've got a traffic cone, we've got a Mothman, and we have koalas and a whole lot more as well. And you get access to that, and you also get into Savage Sunday. What, Savage Sunday? I hope somebody said, because I'm going to answer it for you anyway. It's the VIP lounge where we get up to no good in there. We can't tell anybody that isn't a member. The first rule of Savage Sundays is you don't tell anybody what goes on in the VIP lounge. Nobody gets to see that apart from you and me. The rest of the members out there. Shh. If we make it sound really enticing and like there's really secretive stuff going on, maybe we'll explode. Maybe that's the way we need to go about it. But it's been a long day of woo and information. But I tell you what, I wouldn't be anywhere else right now. I really wouldn't. I promised you there'd be more content coming in 2021, and I've done this before, and I've failed to deliver. But I have got a spring in my step. I am tackling this new year head on, very optimistic, glass half full, 2 channels back in action, and we are going to get a lot more of these late night shows where, if you've ever watched the Paranormal Portal, it's going to be very similar to what Brent does over there. A good friend Brent, check out his channel. He goes live every day. I think I'm probably colliding with him today, but that's something we can work on. But it's going to be ghosty stories. It's going to be the kind of things that you don't hear regurgitated show after show. And what I mean by that is, there's only so many times you can talk about so many topics before you start to hit on some of the same stuff time and time again. It's not deliberate. In fact, sometimes, age I'm getting to and the way my brain works, I forget I've even talked about it. So it's like a brand new topic for me, eh? The joys of Alzheimer's and dementia. I tell you, it's got things to give. But what we're going to do differently on After Dark to keep it totally different and unique is I'm going to work harder to try and uncover some of the stories that just ordinary people have to tell. I'm not talking about people that you're going to hear talking on Coast to Coast, or people that we'd even bring on to the Kev Baker show, or somebody with a book to sell, or they've got something, some documentary. No. Now, don't get me wrong, these stories, these topics, these people, all very good. Well, not all of them, but it's not that I'm rubbishing that. But sometimes, you know, you really have to go into the weeds, into the less travelled kind of locations to find the real gems, to find the real woo, the kind of woo that will not help you sleep at night. Yes, and that's what I've done today. Today we're going to take a selection of stories from the r/no sleep subreddit over on Reddit, okay? 3 stories, that's all I've got for you. About an hour or so we'll be here. If you've got another stream to watch that's dealing with something far more serious and more important and time critical, go for it. No hard feelings at all, folks. That's the joys of YouTube. You, as the consumer, you got the choice to be here or be wherever you like to be. All I ask is that we keep the chat room as cool as we can. 3 simple rules. No politics, no religion, and no douche canoes. What's a douche canoe? Well, you'll know if you become a douche canoe. Okay? You'll know. But, with that said, let me take you over now to, just over here. It's nothing fancy or anything, but I really need to get some new graphics done. Gonna get something for the After Dark. I really need to pimp out the KBS radio / segments for YouTube that we're gonna get uploading on the main channel. Freaky Friday, it needs a bit of a pimping out as well. Yeah, lots to do. Never a dull moment at the KBS headquarters, right? So I'm going to ask you people out there, and we've got double chat box again. There we go. Do you want to see the stories on the screen, or would you rather just look at this little thumbnail here? 1, if you want to read along with me in the story. Sometimes that's probably better because of my... I've decided I have got the onset of middle-age dyslexia. Yeah, I have. I've diagnosed myself because that's what we do nowadays in the year 2021. And I've decided that I have got the middle age onset of chronic dyslexia. So if you want to read along with me, I'll bring the story up. You can press number 1. Or if you would rather just wait and hang on and get the suspense and just look at this creepy picture here, then number 2. 1 to read along, 2, you just want the woo. Just give me that woo, Kev. I can feel you. I can feel you saying it. Holy shimoly. Is that an ice skate that's in the chat room? Don't be giving Anne any ideas, ladies. Come on. Come on now. She obviously hasn't thought about that, right? Because trust me, if Anna put 2 and 2 together, a shoe and a violent bladed weapon, I know for a fact she'd never be near an ice rink in her life, but she would definitely have plenty of those down the side of the sofa to whack me with. So we've got 3 1s, that'll do for me. King can't read, either can I, King. I mean, you have to sit and listen to me trying to read. And King, we're going to be doing one of our daytime streams or a Freaky Friday soon. We're going to do a deep dive into Oak Island, man. We need to get talking about it, but I need the UK to catch up. I think they're only on about episode 2 of the new season. Hypothetically, I might be watching the same ones that you're watching, King. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So, Leslie wants me to read to her. I will read to you in my most dulcet tones, Leslie. There you go. I'm a good reader. Yeah, you see now, that's worrying. That's blindly. You're blindly a follower of KBS. Or should I say deathly a follower. Man, my reading's atrocious. Oak Island, exactly, King. Malaya wants to follow the story. We're following the stories, folks, because it's what we do. What we do here. So, now we're going to play that multiple choice again, okay? To start off with, do you want story number 1 about a strange occurrence that happened at somebody's work? Or do you want number 2, the story about a disturbed individual creeping about in a dog costume? Or do we save that one for last? No, we don't. 1 or 2, what one do you want? 1 for the night shift worker, 2 for the disturbing dog costume. Come on, folks. Hit me with it. Come on. This is pretty cool. We can turn it into some kind of interactive late night shenanigans after dark game show. Tell you, the number 1 abnormal, paranormal, and now extracurricular type shows on the go. Number 1, we're wanting the night shift one. 2, oh no, now we're torn. Number 2, I knew people would want the disturbed story about the dude in the dog costume. How did I know that? Because we're all equally disturbed around here, ladies and gentlemen. Equally disturbed. What is this? The Appalachian Granny? Oh, hang on. I will give you get the special Wookiee treatment. What? That's not even the Wookiee. You know it's going to be problems when I'm mistaking that for that. I'm slowly turning into Jimmy Jeans, isn't I? I've got all these like ornaments and little stuffed animals, and well, the Wookiee's not a stuffed animal. In case you didn't know, Wookiees, I don't think they've actually got any Wookiees yet, maybe. But no, for a name like Appalachian Granny, I think you're the winner tonight of our new contest. Who's got the best name in the chat room? It's a game that we're only going to play once, but you deserve to win for that name. Where is Coney? Coney, where are you? I had you just the other day. Where did you go? Coney. There we go, man. Coney's in the house. I also got this as well. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Yeah, you can. Lovely little sculpture. Bit of tree. Thank you to the listener that came from. Isn't that beautiful? So I keep everything that we get from the listeners up here. I think it's really... I'm very humbled, very lucky to do what we do around here. I was thinking about that just before we went live today, you know. I'm really lucky as well that we changed pace over the past year on YouTube. Without realising it, we future-proofed ourselves. Been into topics like the After Darks and the woo that we get into. I think we're pretty much okay. Okay for now. Okay, so I'll be here for a long time yet, and that's why I feel lucky, because I've got such good people around me, right? So, with that said, exactly, Malaya. That is beautiful, isn't it? And, I don't know, something like that, when you know somebody's done it themselves and they put time into it and effort. I think that's really special. Jimmy Jeans in the house. Jimmy. I was listening to Jimmy earlier on. Remember to check out Into the Microcosm with the GMUC. Why is he calling them GMUC? Well, sometimes we call people James in Scotland. They get called GMUC. Absolutely no idea why we do that. We're a strange bunch in Scotland. That's all I can say. So we're going to start off with a disturbing story about a man in a dog costume. Shh, get ready, folks. We are going after dark. That was pretty cool, eh? That was like I'd almost planned that. Like we cut away to like some filler screen before we go into the story. Probably spoiled it by explaining that I'd just hit upon something that probably I should be doing all along anyway. But anywho, are you ready? I'm not quite ready yet, because when you get into stories like this, it's only right that you put on a bit of atmospherics in the background, right? I think so. I'm thinking so. You see, folks, this is what happens when Anne goes to work at night. I'm just left to run wild in the house like a wild man. Oh, me and Dave. Oh, it's scary. Where are we? Scary noises folder. Where are you? There we are. There's my scary noises folder. Everyone should have a scary noises folder on their computer, right? There we go. There we go. Let me hear this one. Let's see. It's a bit disturbed, isn't it? It is a little bit disturbed, that one. This will do for this one, right? Hold on tight. I need to get myself ready for this. Whoa. I'm going to start wearing the smoking jacket for these late night escapades as well. We're going to really gimp it up. Some nights I might even have the cravat. Look like I'm really windswept and interesting as I tell you my ghostly stories. Who knows what's happening to me, man? I'm like a butterfly. I'm going through a metamorphosis as a content creator. Who knows what's going to come out the other side, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully, not a man in a disturbed dog costume. So, with that said, King, don't be scared, my friend. Hold Jimmy's hand. His hand, Jimmy. Whew, 45 this year. I need to really start getting serious and grow up a little bit, don't you think? Anywho, a man in a costume is pretending to be my mum's dog. I haven't heard from my mum in about 3 days. That was around the time her Beagle Buster passed, and she was really depressed, so I decided to give her some space to cope. So when she called me out of the blue yesterday, sounding all bright and chipper, that was when I knew something had happened. We live in a small town, Iowa, a couple of kilometers north of Spirit Lake. There isn't much to do to pass the time, and since my dad passed and I moved out for college, Mum relied heavily on Buster for company. I finished up my last semester and went back home, ready to fit back into life, at least until it was time to go job hunting, And that's when she told me the news about Buster. I tried my best to console her and even promised her a new dog, but she wouldn't hear a word of it. I'm still at that stage with Susie Cat right now. Somebody mentioned getting a cat the other day and I felt deeply offended. I felt like I'd been assaulted. The thought of replacing Susie can't replace a pet. So yeah, I can resonate so far with where we're going here. Buster was a gift from my dad for their 12th anniversary. So to her, Buster was the last thing that made sense to her, and losing him meant losing my dad all over again. I spent a few nights at her house to try and cheer her up before getting back to my own apartment. Excuse me. About 10 minutes away until I got her phone call. Now, she hadn't even risen properly, or the sun hadn't even properly... Let me start that bit again, alright? The sun hadn't even risen properly above the horizon when I heard my phone rattling on the nightstand. Mikey, you need to get over here right now. You wouldn't believe who came to visit me last night. I'd just woken up from a deep sleep and her loud, energetic tone was a little overwhelming for me. Buster. He must have come in through the doggy door. Although I don't know how because he's so big now. I paused for a minute, trying to make sense of what it was I was hearing. I looked at the phone screen to make sure it was my mum and glanced at the time, and to see it was just 5:05 a.m. Are you sure it isn't another beagle? Could be somebody else's dog. Of course it's him. I'd know my Buster anywhere. Come over and say hi. Well, I wanted to ask more, but between my sleepy haze and obvious confusion, all I managed was okay. I looked at my phone screen again, unsure if what just happened was a really vivid dream, or if my mum had fallen into some psychotic episode. I put on a sweater and slipped on my jeans and sneakers before leaving for her house. All the while over, I was genuinely worried about her mental health, and I blamed myself. Dad passed around the same time I started school out of state, and he was barely in the ground when I up and left Mum on her own. The more I thought about it, the more likely it seemed that I was the one to blame for all of this, and to make matters worse, I still didn't have a job. As I bent the corner, I half expected to see Buster running around our front lawn, as I had seen him before so many times walking home from high school. But there was no dog. Probably inside. I walked up the cobblestone walkway and heard my mum making her ridiculous baby talk that I'd often hear when Buster was still alive. Come here, Buster. Probably all that stuff going on, right? Buster. All that kind of stuff. As I walked in through the front door, nothing could prepare me for what I saw. As my eyes focused on the room, I saw Mum sitting on the couch as I'd seen her 100 times before, with a black mass curled at her feet. As my eyes adjusted to the light of the house, I stood frozen, unable to say anything. Doesn't he look great, Mikey? What I saw was a man, 6'8" me. I went early with my 6'8" me. Yeah. Big boy, big dog, big Buster. He could have been closer to an even 7 feet tall from where I stood, wearing a matte black dog mask and a full body jumpsuit. The man was so tall he completely covered the white carpet Mum had laid out on the ground. I don't know where he was, but I'm so happy to have my big man back, Mum said, as she pat the man's stomach. I still couldn't move or say anything. Through my eye hole, or through the eye holes of the mask, I could see the man studying me intently, and a pang of fear struck my chest. He looked as if he was plotting his next move, thinking of what to do. What did I just stumble upon exactly? I shifted my gaze to my mum, and I saw that she was in her glee. The only time I saw her this happy was when I told her I got accepted to Nebraska State. From Norway to Nebraska, you see. It felt so sincere and warm, it tore me up inside. Then I looked back down to the man and looked at his eyes again through the holes of his mask. I could only see his eyes, but I swore they had the most smug look, as if to say, yep, I made her this happy when you couldn't. But of course he didn't say anything. He was a dog, after all. And dogs don't talk. My God, I had to say something. Mum, what the f***? I blurted out. Of course, that's not the exact words I wanted to come out, but the shock of the situation sort of chose my words for me, and who could blame a man? Who could blame anyone for maybe expelling or ejaculating an expletive when presented with your mother in her gleeful state, stroking the man of or the belly of a man in a dog costume and a mask? I think you done well. I think Mikey done well just to say the one F-bomb. She raised her head, and the warm, doting smile melted from her face. What's your problem? Buster's back, can't you see? Mum, who is that? Where did he come from? Mum looked back at me like I had a skull full of brown hot steaming stuff. Number twos, if you will, please. This isn't funny, Mikey. You're scaring Buster with your loud talking. Now, my mum wasn't much of a prankster. Come to think of it, she wasn't much of anything. For as long as I could remember, she pretty much lived for her family. Whatever Dad and I liked, she liked as well. But I still held out hope that this was some elaborate joke at my expense. But her eyes and facial expression behind her comically tiny Looney Tunes glasses made me realise that something was terribly wrong. When I thought it couldn't get any worse, I heard it. Whimpers coming from the thing that was lying on the ground. Oh, what's wrong, Bussy? Want to go out? You don't? Okay, we'll stay inside with Mama. I could feel beads of sweat forming below my hairline in clusters. I didn't know what to do. Do I call the police? Clearly my mum was unwell if she felt this. This thing was her dead dog. Then without warning, the man got up on all fours and started growling at me. I felt that pang of fear in my chest again, only harder this time. I clearly couldn't count on my mum for help, so what was I going to do? The man in the suit looked like he had had at least 50 pounds on me, and he was clearly deranged. I wonder what gave that away. Was it the look in his eye, do you think? Or was it the fact he'd curled up like a dog at your mum's feet and was acting like a dog? Buster, come back here. Leave Mikey alone. He just wants to play with you, Mikey. He hasn't seen you for a long time. I had to get a big stick and went and play fetch with it. Whack. That's all I'm saying. No dogs were harmed in the making of my story, because it's not a dog. The minute you start acting like this is a dog, then you got problems. You've become part of this insane LARP of a man that's LARPing around as a dog. Who knew? Then I could see him tensing up as if to charge. Before waiting, I ran out of the open door and back onto the street, not stopping until I got home. Leslie Dickey coming in with $5. Me love you. Long time, Leslie. Long time. $5. Me love you. I'm going to have to get that as a soundbite. I really do. As I type this now, it seems ridiculous to me, running from a grown man in a dog costume. But I don't know. There was something so unsettling about the incident. I want you all to ponder that. want you all to really think seriously about what you would do presented with a similar situation. A loved one. There we go. Is there a message? Is there a message? I need to get him in front. Wait, what are you doing up there, man? Let's play it again. Let's play it again. Here we go. There we go. Thank you very much, Leslie. Me love you long time. There you go. That was your message, right? So, but I want you to seriously think. I mean, what do you do? Do you run? Me, personally, being Scottish, I don't run. I don't run. I know you shouldn't, like, square up with man versus animal. It's not fair. It's a silly fight to get into, but it's not a real dog. Don't pander to this LARP. Don't give it any oxygen, folks. You give this dog an inch, and this dog man will take a yard. I'm telling you, and he'll want his belly rubbed. So, getting back to the story, back to seriousness, okay? As I type this, okay, we've done that. Something unsettling about the incident, right? We've got that. Clearly, it was a man dressed as a dog, but I don't know. His eyes, while they were definitely human, had something else behind them that seemed inhuman and animalistic. I walked back over to my apartment, trying to make sense of what happened all the way. Who was that person? Where did he come from? Was he dangerous? But last and definitely not least, what do I do now? What do you do? What a conundrum to find yourself in. Do I go to the police? Tell them my mum's house has been invaded by a crazed dog man? Even if I did convince them to come to the home with me, what would they have done? I read a story online once where a man out of some strange fetish decided to live out the rest of his days as a horse in California, with his wife now owner. And there wasn't anything the authorities could do about it. Even if the police did something, is that really what I wanted to put my mum through? Between Dad's passing and my going away, she clearly had a lot of mental baggage, and a trip to the police station to file a report, assuming she would in the first place, was the last thing she needed. But still, leaving her in there with whatever the that wasn't a solution either. I sat in my bed and I thought for a while until I realised I had to do something. I walked back over to my mum's house, the front door still open. Still unsure of how to approach the situation, I pulled out my pocket knife in case things took a turn for the worse. That was when I saw one of my old neighbours, Ms. Johansson, in her patio, looking in the direction of my house. I whistled her over to the sidewalk. You see, now you're treating people like dogs. You don't whistle people over to the sidewalk. There's a strange dynamic going on in Mikey's family. I think we're getting to the bottom of here. Mikey, please come on to the Kev Baker sofa of psychology. Yes, indeed. I'm a pseudo-psychologist, ladies and gentlemen. Mikey, is your mum okay? Why do you ask? Probably something to do with the man dressed the dog, I'm thinking. She studied me carefully. Well, she's been laughing and giggling really loud. And just before I saw you, she started cursing at someone. I know she lives alone since you left, so I don't know what's going on. Maybe she had the TV on. You see, Mikey's starting to play a part. He's starting to buy into it. He's not killing the LARP dead. He should be saying to the neighbour, A, sorry, I didn't mean to whistle you over like some dog. B, my mum's lost it. More to the point, there's a creepy dude in a dog costume crawling about in my house. What'd I do? So, the thing is, it's not just that. Last night I got up to use the washroom. Oh boy, what's happening? And through the window I seen a huge dog in your front lawn. It was about the size of a Great Dane. I thought about calling animal control, but who would believe an old coot like me? Oh, who would believe that indeed, I thought to myself. Thanks, Miss Johansson. I think maybe you should call the police. Oh, delegating. Look at that slopey shoulder. It's your mum. She's in there with a potential maniac. No loving story ever started with, oh, remember how we met, darling? Oh, go on, tell the grandkids how we met. Oh, right, there was one night, it was just after I'd lost my pet. And your granda there, he comes crawling into the house with a big dog suit on, and he starts licking my toes and acting like a... Now, you see, that story's never happened, does it? But if you watch these criminal investigation channels I watch, oh, this has got all the telltale signs of an unhappy ending. That's all I'm going to say. So, usually, Miss Johansson was the kind of old biddy to ask why, but she sensed the urgency of the situation and hurried inside to call the cops. No sooner had I turned to face the house, I heard my mum's scream. I hopped the wall of the house and walked inside to see the dog man trying to mount my mother as she fought back. Oh my word, things have escalated. You see, this is what happens. I tried to focus on what was happening before my very eyes. It's disturbing when you see dogs doing that, when they get a bit mistaken, a bit excited. You know, imagine your confusion when you see a grown man dressed as a dog, and a 7-foot man at that, mounting your mama's leg. Not good. Not good. My fear and shock quickly turned to rage when I folded out the blade of my really insignificant pocket knife and looked at the 7-foot man and thought, no, not today. Don't think this is going to work much. On guard! Doesn't work. I mean, don't get me wrong, a pocket knife looks like a sword in a hand my size. That's all I can say. I crashed into him and took him down to the ground in a movie. Oh no, a movie? I thought he was going to say he copied a move out of a movie. I was going to say, what movies do you watch where they tackle dogs? Anywho, in a move reminiscent of my old Pop Warner's days, and I slipped the knife between his shoulder blades. I could hear him yelp in pain as I grabbed him and began punching the leather mask that he was wearing. Oh my goodness, it's not any old dog mask. It's a leather gimp dog mask. And listen, when you stab a 7-foot man between the shoulder blades and it's dressed like a dog, is there that split second in your mind? Think about it though. I mean, you're confident this is a man dressed as a dog, but when you hear it yelping when you go with the penknife, is there that voice in the back of your head that says, "Oh, hold on, is it a dog? Don't pause, it'll be on you in a minute." I heard his animalistic growls again, and he lunged forward and he bit my forearm. I tell you something, the guy plays a very good dog. A bolt of pain ran up my right arm as I tried to pry his mouth open from the mask. "Mikey, what are you doing?" was all I could hear from behind me. "This strong." I felt him trying to pull me closer with one arm, but I fought back with everything until I heard the police sirens. The most human look of fear washed over his eyes as he opened his mouth and ran out on all fours, out the back door and over the neighbour's fence. Now that's disturbing. Anyone would think at this point, the game's up, right? I mean, I found a woman daft enough to be tickling my belly. I should have just taken that and left, but now I'm in a fight. Now I can hear the old bill's coming. You would think at this point, you'd give up the doggy game, right? You'd probably think, well, nobody's really buying the dog antics now, so nobody's going to get too freaked if I just run out the door like a man, since he is a man. But no. This crisis dog stayed in character all the way out the back garden. Pounding like a Great Dane. Or a beagle, one of the two. Buster. What a guy. Well, dog. Whatever he is. So when the police cleared the house in the neighbourhood with no reports of a 7-foot tall man dressed like a dog, running on all fours, I wasn't particularly surprised. I deliberately left out the details of the dog suit. I didn't need the police looking at me side-eyed. We made a report as usual, and investigators chalked it up to a homeless derelict who thought he could fit into Mum's home. It still didn't answer a lot of questions. I'm really glad it said that because I'm full of them here. For now, Mum is staying with me at my apartment. I have an appointment lined up with a psychiatrist for her the next morning. I love her so much and I just want to do what's best for her. What I should have done all along. I hope this whole episode is over. Reading it about a year from now, it might seem a little less terrifying and a little more funny. But the growling I hear every so often outside my door as I write this doesn't help ease my mind. Oh, 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 oh. We are one down, two to go. Hit like, hit share. If you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe. Maybe you want to become a member, just like our good friend Moron done earlier on. And I get it, the Moron. I get it. But Moron and on and on. It sounds better that way. But if you want to become a savage, click the join button if you dare. And that will get you into our Sundays Savage Sundays in the VIP lounge. So, next up we have got the guy or the entity that went to a night shift job like no other. And then we are saving the strangest, creepiest, weirdest until last. Oh, people in the chat room talking about gutters. Don't bring Dave out. Don't do it. This is why, if I owned Count Dracula's castle over there in Transylvania, if you ever came round to visit, you would find me knocking that one out on the piano. The piano, ladies and gentlemen, come on out the gutter. Yeah, so come on in, as I play my creepy music. Ignore the manservant dressed as a dog. It's what he does on his day off. Yeah, that's a strange story though, right? Strange one. Where do you go with that? I could probably do a week's worth of shows on how disturbing on multiple levels all of that was. Do one about the character himself with his 7-8 foot tall hulking dog-like frame and his decision when it was fight or fright, right? Fight or flight. You know, he heard the cop sirens. No any normal creepy weirdo that goes around people's houses in dog costumes probably would have ran out the door at that point on two legs, but not he. No. He took it to a new level altogether. He ran out in full character. He did. I thought that was me getting a message there. I thought Anne was watching saying, what are you talking about? One down, two to go on our After Dark today. Next one, not quite the creepy factor, but it's definitely glitchy and weird and makes you go, I've forgotten the sun. How depressing does that sound? I've forgotten what the sun looks like. What are we looking at here? Nelson Mandela's prison journal? I don't know. January the 14th, 2020. So just over a year ago. I'm writing this on my 15-minute break. I started 2 weeks ago. I applied for a night shift job at this supermarket. I was happy, needed rent money, and some to spend on the girlfriend, as you do. Sounds like a nice young guy. The manager was super cool, and 2 days later, I returned for my first shift. So the first shift went well, the guys were happy. Then we went on our company-mandated 15-minute break. Now the guys all talked numbers and prices. Just numbers and prices. We got a couple of frozen dinners from the store, and the manager says they allows a couple of items a day for dinner. And then we left the room. When I walked through the aisles, it had been disordered. Stuff was brought out and others were messed with, and like a full day of shopping had gone by. Messy floors, my aisle was in total disarray. We'd only been gone 15 minutes. The guys didn't question it, and neither did I. I didn't want to start saying anything and could fix it all in my last couple of hours. The second half of my shift went smooth. Then, when it was time to leave, the guys went to the break room again. I looked for the exit, only found there wasn't one. I went to ask the guys and they got all confrontational and aggressive. Stop talking about home. Don't leave till the job is done. Well, I thought I was hallucinating. I just sat. I just tried to call somebody but couldn't, and the guys got up and went back to work. That was 2 weeks ago. I've yet to leave. I've yet to see the sun or a single customer. Not a day worker, not a manager, no one. We work for 4 days, go on a break and come out to a store that needs fixing and restocking. 10 men work stocking. 2 work on pulling pallets from the back, and middle managers pulling out the work we need to do. Then we have 2 overseers, bosses. They occasionally help or are in the back offices doing paperwork. What they write, I don't know. Seems every 20th shift, they call me back and talk to me on speed. They have exact numbers, like every move I've made has been calculated. I stacked exactly 52.9 an hour, excelling in one aisle but not in another. Then one night shift manager, we don't see him much, he answers calls. The phone's always static when I walk by. Every time I raised fear and concern, they got aggressive, one even grabbing me. I've avoided bringing this up for fear of my well-being. There seems to be no way out. Every day, one break, more numbers. Seen the chicken stock got a sale? I bet we get a whole pallet of frozen peas. I'm have to ask Caitlin for gloves so I don't get frostbite in the freezer aisle. Grapes are £1.99 a bunch. £1.99 dollars cents, who knows? But the ketchup's only 99 this week. The workers here talk of day shift workers I've never seen. Oh, Decine told me they had a great day. Bet tonight's going to be a handful. They all seem to have families but refuse to talk about them. What the hell do you want to know about my wife? They do speak to me though. And again, this is me reading it. There's obviously grammatical errors in here. Not just my pronunciation. That we can deal with. But this person loves a lot of full stops. A lot of full stops is all I can say. Period. If you're over in the US. It says they do speak to me though. Given its work-related jargon. They're more than happy to talk about that. Seems every 150 shifts they walk out to a store that's been jumbled. Aisle 12 is now bacon, and bacon sold aisle now cereal, and so on. Day shift must have arranged the aisles. At least that's what the boss says. Always more streamlined, but how? I can occasionally see one of them cracking, saying he needs the overtime for his wife, catching himself saying it, giving him some thought and coming up blank when he tries to pull her from his memory, before he moves on back to numbers or our break ends and he forgets. I tried to get out. The windows are all 20 feet up and impenetrable. So are the walls. So is everything. When the trucks come in with the pallets, it seems to be on a break, or when no one is there to see them pull in, leaving no gap to slip out. I've been told if I work long enough, I'll get to be a pallet worker, then an overseer, finally a boss. They talk of retirement when you work your way to night shift, boss, and get too old to work. My family hasn't called. I don't know if they remember me. Are they past? Internet will only work for bland phone games, basic Wikipedia articles, audiobooks, and some music. Finally, the blandest forums. That's where I hope to post this next break. Nothing that tells me what's going on outside, nothing that updates, nothing that shows what day it is. We get an allowance from the food, or from the store for food. I'm scared and hoping to leave as I write this on my phone notepad. I'll continue to journal and post when I have the information. I don't want to forget. April the 9th, 2065. I just opened this notepad. Man, I must have been on some Been working here for so long, I totally forgot my first day. Must have been so nervous I journaled this. Or was I just a stoner out of his gourd? Read it, part of me, or read it and part of me wants to believe it, that I've been trapped here, but I can remember my family, right? Vague faces, no solid memories, but I can think of the people. Hell, now that I think about it, I can't think of the last time I saw them. But I've been working overtime. Wife says we need money. But when haven't we needed the money? When was the last time I wasn't doing extra work? What do we use it for? Hell, what was the last thing I bought? But I can remember her, can I? Weirdly, not as a memory, but as a description. Like I haven't seen them, but someone put the words in my head to conjure an image with no real background. Just some faces, no movement, no events, no memories. Just stock images holding place. Maybe I just need to sit down. It's been a heavy day today. Had a sale on meats and I moved some pallets around due to the extra product coming in. Maybe I just exerted myself too much. Work's been harder for me now. Heart's weaker, back hurts. They've extended my allowance to include some sweets and medicine. Isn't that nice? It's a good company I work for. Not all take good care of you like this. Night shift boss takes a toll on you, you know. But the money's good. Good for my wife, of course. We'll just need a little bit more, so I'll be working overtime for a bit. My predecessor told me if I did well, I could retire. I get to see my wife for an hour before they put me in an ambulance and drive me away. At least that's what happened to the last one. I'd like to see her again, my wife. And my kids, what were their names? I've gotten to spend so little time with them. Have I spent time with them at all? How old are they? No, of course you have. It's been a long shift. Why wouldn't they be real, right? Well, either way, I've got to go soon. I have to train this new worker. If he asks me, crying and snobbing, when he can go home one more time, I'm gonna hit him. Boom. Come on, you can all see me playing that on my grand piano as you walk into Castle Bracule. He's lost the plot. Dave's lost the plot. One more story to go. One more to go, ladies and gents. Can you handle the woo? We have saved the best for last. Oh. Turn them down. Turn them down. Get those lights off. We are after dark on KBS. One more story to go. And this one is gonna make you go, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Just in case you can't tell, I really am having fun here. I am having much fun on our After Dark, yes. There we go. Malaya, I seen you over there. I seen you on Twitter. Twitter. The Twatterati. Yes, I've seen you over there, Malaya. Eyes everywhere. What have you put on Twitter? What don't you want me to see? I know my video scares, I know. That's the point. I'm not even finished yet. Oh, wait till you see what's coming your way, ladies and gentlemen. But now, onto the one that probably disturbed me the most, even more than the dog man. Not your typical dog man story that we get into here, usually, across the KBS many brands that we've got going. Who knows? Lewis likes his After Dark. Lewis, I'll try as much as I can to keep them going. Some days I get awfully tired, I do. The old adrenaline, when you do the main show, it hits peak levels. And then sometimes it can just crash on the other side. And when adrenaline crashes, usually, so does the adrenaline producer, experiencer, whatever. But no, I really love doing this as well, as you can definitely tell. PPP in the chat room. Aaron releases Malaya's shackles and give a playful push out of her cage. Release the Malaya! Yes, indeed. Nobody puts any KBS audience in a cage. Me, from time to time, but only for comedic fun. Only to spin you a yarn or something, you know. So listen. The woo is the why, and the why is the woo. Exactly. The who, the what, the where, the when. The woo, because the woo is the why, and the why is the woo. Thank you for reminding me of that, Leslie. I need to write that one down. Will we get into it? Yes. You know the good thing about this, folks? There are bajillions of stories out there. Do we know if they're real? That's part of the fun, right? It's part of the mystery. It's the what if it was real. That's what I hope you ask yourself at the end of everyone. Just what if? What if that was me? And what if it was you? And your grandpa said to you, never, never to go near that bloody greenhouse. Are we ready for story number 3, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, absolutely. Yep. Here we go. I'm seeing chains in the chat room. I've got KBS question mark. Zoe's asking a question. But I don't know. I don't know what the question is. Let us launch into the greenhouse and I'll come back to the chat room before we go away today. Good to see you, Ken. Good to see you, Rose. Yes. Aaron and Malaya seem to be striking up a very fantastic relationship in there. Maybe relationship is the wrong word. Kinship. There you go. There you go. So then, Grandpa said, never, never to go in the greenhouse. Last year was really difficult for my Grandpa Jack. First, he had a stroke in mid-May. And then our grandma, Bella, got sick with the in September. Now, she passed away a few weeks later and it hit him really, really hard. I know the two of them were married going on almost 54 years, so I can't even imagine losing your best friend after all that time together. Anywho, he relied on Mama for everything. So when she was gone, it was my dad who suggested that us kids step in and step up. Grandpa's about 76 now, not getting any younger. We can at least check on him daily, help with errands and housework. My brother Matt and I immediately volunteered. And when Dad had to go out of state for work, as kids, Grandpa and Mama were always there to take care of us, so this just felt like we were giving back to them. I said I would stop by on Mondays and Tuesdays, and Matt said he would handle the rest. I agreed to let him take the bulk of the work, also because I work around hospital patients all day, and didn't want to risk bringing anything home to Grandpa. Plus, not to mention the drive to get Grandpa was a lot further for me. I didn't want to tell Dad it was too much, but I did find a way for him to PayPal me some gas money in exchange for assisting Grandpa. When I got to Grandpa's property, I couldn't believe how much had changed since the last time I'd been there. There was a lot of clean-up to do around the yard, projects that had obviously not been finished from years gone by. And the lawn needed mowing, and acquired junk that was sitting around the grass clearly needed sorting through. The most striking change was the greenhouse. Grandpa has always loved his plants and been saying for years that he would eventually build one. I just never saw him doing it. The thing was fairly large, at least the size of a small house. 25 feet, maybe bigger, just from looking at it. It was clear, though, that the greenhouse was where he was devoting most of his time now. And even when I pulled up, I could see him trotting out of the enclosure towards the main house, humming. I could see from this far away he had just been on his knees digging in the dirt, and it looked like he had cut his right hand because he had wrapped it in a bit of shirt around it to absolve the wound. When he spotted me, he waved and called for me to come and help him with a wheelbarrow. "Amy, is that you? My, how you've grown," he said, as he pushed the old wheelbarrow around to his tool shed. "You don't look too bad yourself," I said. I hugged him immediately, too overcome with emotion to be worried about the distance protocols, and except for this, of course, I said, gesturing towards his damp hand and the dried blood on it. "Oh, it's just a scrape," he said dismissively. "Have you been all right otherwise?" I asked, deciding not to tackle that argument right now. "Oh, you know me. I keep myself busy. Just bought myself a new exercise machine in the den. A Peloton or something. I saw it in one of those catalogues," he said. I resisted the urge to chuckle and had him guide me inside to show me. His house looked like it needed some TLC, And to be sure, and he was explaining how his new machine worked, I was making a mental list of things I would need to be doing. "So what brings you all this way, girl?" he asked. "I want to come and check on you. See if you needed anything. Matt will be by tomorrow to do the same. We don't want you pushing yourself too hard." Now, he had this wicked laugh that reminded me of Santa Claus, and he remarked, "Ho, ho, ho. Are you trying to tell me that I'm old?" "Well, you aren't getting any younger," I admitted. He seemed a bit miffed by the idea of having supervision. I could understand his frustration. He had been in 2 wars, and why now all of a sudden did he have to be treated like a child? But I wasn't budging, and he knew it. "Fine. But if you're going to stick around, then you're going to have to obey my rules. You and Matthew both, you hear?" I promised I would for both of us, and made a mental note to remind Matt to respect what Grandpa told me. Most of it was inane, petty stuff, like not to open his mail or don't be forcing him to eat certain food. But then, above all else, he stressed that no one but him was allowed into the greenhouse. Nobody in this family was a love or has a love for plants like me, and I don't want any of you to contaminate what I'm growing in there with your negative auras," he remarked. I told him I would listen, and honestly, I intended to keep my word. I couldn't see him getting into any harm in the greenhouse, but Matt wasn't too thrilled when I relayed the information to him. He really shouldn't be bending over, moving things, or even trying to dig in the soil like he used to 6 or even 4 years ago, he told me. Dad was in agreement. I felt a little foolish not even considering any of that. I would feel bad going back on my promise, I admitted to them both. "Well, you'll just have to. He's already hurt himself once this week," Dad said. And I recalled the bandaged hand and felt awful not realising how dangerous it could be. Dad reminded me that Grandpa was on blood thinners, so any scrape like that could be really, really bad. If you just calmly talk about whatever he is doing in the greenhouse and offer to do it in his stead, I'm sure he'll come around, Matt reasoned, and reminded me that Grandpa tended to listen to me more. So I intended to do just as they asked, but Jack wouldn't hear it. In fact, when I even suggested helping out in the greenhouse, he became angry. "You think a few simple plants are going to hurt me? Because of a little cut?" he muttered. He was furious, and I was sure he was going to insist that I leave if I brought it up again, at least not until I softened him up a little bit. "What do you have in there that's so special that I might mess up?" I teased him the week after, and that was when he was in a good mood. "Oh, you wouldn't believe me even if I told you, girlie. It's miraculous." "Something miraculous in the greenhouse, I hear you ponder?" "Oh, just wait. Maybe you could show me," I asked him. I was hoping to coax him into letting me inside, but the plan backfired. Instead, he grabbed the keys to the greenhouse and berated me for even suggesting it. "Just let me go work on my plants in peace," he shouted. I was beginning to get the impression that his obsession with the greenhouse and keeping it safe was bordering on bizarre, and it only heightened my curiosity. So I waited. Later that afternoon, when he returned, I offered him a heavy meal, and we sat down to watch one of his favourite programmes, Bonanza. Who doesn't like a bit of Bonanza, right? Love Boat probably beats Bonanza for me, but hey, I'm a simple guy. I used the opportunity to let him relax and drift into a nap. And then I decided to check the greenhouse for myself. I snatched the keys from his hallway and snuck out to the enclosure, feeling a bit like a common robber trying to break in somewhere. It felt a little silly, I will admit it, but I just simply couldn't shake the feeling that Grandpa was hiding something in the greenhouse. Finally, I found the right one and I entered the damp hothouse. Inside, it was just as chaotic as I had imagined. There were all sorts of plants, from ferns to geraniums to bamboo groves. He had a virtual menagerie of wild flora in this place, but most of it looked like it was being poorly maintained. I walked about the plastic covered, environmentally controlled building, trying to figure out why he was so fixated on this place when I heard something that I will never forget. It was a man in a dog costume. It wasn't really. It wasn't really. I just thought that'd be funny. Sorry. Bad timing. Okay. It was a mixture of a high-pitched whistle and a soft scream, like a final gasp of air was hissing out of a sealed lid. It was coming from the most exotic plant I had ever seen. The only apparent living thing in the entire greenhouse. It looked like some kind of orchard. A massive, blooming blend of bright red thorns and swirling petals to bring together a strange network of gourd-shaped mouths that looked like they were used for capturing nectar. It was both beautiful and deadly all at once, and I couldn't help but be drawn to the unique flower. Sorry, still trying to get over what I said a minute ago. As I got closer, I noticed that it seemed to be moving, and I actually had to do a double take to make sure I wasn't seeing things. When I took another step, I confirmed it. The writhing organism. And I read that totally wrong the first time I went through this story, and it really confused me. Was actually responding to my movements. I couldn't help but be overcome with excitement. I was no botanist, but I knew I'd never seen a plant so exquisite and unique before. I don't think you need to be a botanist to know that. Typically, plants won't really react like this. However, anyhow, this was the discovery of the century, perhaps even of my lifetime. I immediately wondered why Grandpa Jack had not been keen to sell this and solve his money problems. Then I heard the sound of footsteps behind me, and I realised he was coming. Immediately, I hid in the groves behind the massive flower, watching from the thicket as Grandpa entered the greenhouse. He looked a little flustered and confused, perhaps wondering where his keys were. But then his eyes focused entirely onto the plant. "Good evening, darling. Brought you some fresh to eat, or something fresh to eat," he said, as he moved over towards the wheelbarrow and dumped out a bag of fertilizer. Except it wasn't fertilizer at all. It looked like chopped up meat. To my shock, the plant's vines eagerly extended and pulled in the nutrients from the bloody meal. It felt like I was suddenly watching a deleted scene from The Little Shop of Horrors, and I realised immediately that my grandfather was the caretaker of a dangerous life form. Getting harder to find strays these days. Might have to turn to other means to feed you soon, he commented, as the plant finished its meal and he cleaned up. I was broken about how fixated he was on serving this bizarre carnivorous flower, trying to understand his passion, but I couldn't let blinders confuse me, and about what I knew I would need to do. As soon as he left, I followed and decided to call Matt immediately with a plan. Uh-oh, I hope she didn't tell Matt to, with the plan. We don't do that. Whatever this thing was, I knew it needed to be destroyed before Grandpa decided to let it start feeding on flesh and grow beyond his control. I drove away and explained the situation to Matt over the phone, and I don't think I've ever known him to be speechless, but this definitely felt like it was such an occasion. Wow. So it's like an alien or something, he guessed? Well, it's not natural. That's for sure, I told him. All right, I'll check it out tomorrow. Be safe. I warned. The next day, I decided to go up there anyway and give Matt backup in case Grandpa tried to cause problems. Thankfully, though, his nurse was at the house giving his weekly checkup, which gave me time to show Matt the greenhouse. When he saw the strange, bulbous flower, he admitted that he was stumped. Never seen anything like it. Certainly freaky, he agreed. He's been feeding it meat, steak, and stray animals. I swear it's the freakiest and most frightening thing I've ever seen. We need to destroy it, Matt said. He made his way to Grandpa's tool shed and ordered me to watch the door. His nurse could be finished at any time. He returned a few minutes later with a blowtorch and started up, telling me to stand back. Ladies and gentlemen, our hero has entered the story. Then he began to burn the creature. It started to scream so loudly. Like that. Sounds a bit like my pterodactyl, only it's a screaming one this time. What's the triffid sound like when you're attacking it with fire? I'm not meant to be laughing right now. That's serious stuff. He began to burn the creature. It started to scream loudly, and I heard Grandpa holler in surprise up at the house. Hurry, Matt, he's on his way, I told my brother. Then it was then I saw Grandpa Jack rushing towards me, like the devil himself was inside him. I stood my ground and held him back as Matt kept torching the plant, trying to get every part of this bizarre creature. No! No! You have to stop, Grandpa screamed. This thing is too dangerous. You could be hurting people, I said, trying desperately to knock sense into him, while my brother tried to attack a plant with fire. It didn't make sense to me at first why I was protecting this monstrous creation. Then he said one word. Oh, that made me feel paralyzed. Bella! Immediately, I froze and he pushed past me. He tried to tackle Matt, but it was already too late. Most of the plant was writhing and gone by this point. Grandpa fell to the greenhouse floor and started to sob as he frantically picked up the dying blossoms. No! Not after all I went through. No! I felt my mouth go dry as his words at last registered in my foggy brain. For you see, Bella, it was the name of our grandmother. This creature, this beautiful flower, it had been her. You, both of you, are no longer welcome here, he screamed between bitter tears. Grandpa, whatever you were doing, it wasn't right. It wasn't natural. This couldn't have brought her back, I tried to tell him as Matt suddenly began to understand what was going on. She was here. I heard her. She was in the soil. She had the chance to be reborn, Grandpa told us. We had to physically drag him out of that greenhouse, kicking and screaming. But Matt managed to subdue him as I called Dad, and he made sure the decision to get Grandpa moved to a nursing home, or he made the decision. Assisted living is for the best. He just can't care for all this anymore, and he needs 24/7 care, Dad said. We didn't mention anything about the plant. A week later, Matt and I were there to clean, still reeling from the strange experience and trying to pick up the pieces when I decided to breach the subject by glancing at the greenhouse. Do you really think it was possible that that was Grandma? I asked, and it frightened me to no end that not only Grandpa cheated death, but that we possibly had a part in destroying Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein's plant, in this case. I wanted to know, how could such a thing be possible? Was it even possible in our world? Science didn't make sense, but then nothing about the plant seemed grounded in reality, I understood. Even if it wasn't the same woman we know. Oh, and a lot more leaves about her for a start. She looked nothing like that from what I remember. I told myself he was right and tried to push the thought from my mind, but eventually My steps took me there, and I looked down at the dead foliage, and I felt just as defeated and sad as Grandpa. Maybe it hadn't been as dangerous as I thought. Maybe we had been the real evils here, in a place where nature was trying to rekindle a love between two souls. Amid the ashes, I stood there contemplating all of this, and I saw a movement of a delicate, small, delicate vine, a survivor from the blaze. I reached down and touched the wondrous creation, marveling at it and wondering if all the possibilities that it held. It rested a petal on me, and I could almost hear a faint whisper or a sigh, like it was talking to me. Or whatever noise plants make when they talk to you, I don't know. The next day I visited Grandpa in the community, and I told him I was bringing him a gift. First, he didn't seem too interested, but when he saw the green buds peeking from the top of the pot, his whole face lit up. I let him hold the plant in his hands and watched as he gently sang a tune that he and his late wife had memorized to each other. I didn't have the heart to tell him that what I brought was just an ordinary house plant, that I'd snuffed out the last remnant of the devil's work the day before. I told myself it was better this way, to let him live a lie than to hurt himself or others. I told myself that I could forgive myself for killing what might have been the last of my grandmother, rather than know the secrets he used to bring her back. We all say we want answers, but in the end, it's the lies that help us to sleep at night. Yes, indeed. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back in just a moment to wind this up, to take us out of episode number 2 of After Dark. You know, maybe to take his mind off things, maybe they should buy old Grandpa Jack a dog costume and let him loose. Let him loose, God damn it. Massive thank you to all of you that hung around for this today. Absolutely top notch. Top notch! I do enjoy the After Dark. I do enjoy this type of content. 3 really creepy stories to round out the day. For me, it's 4:26 a.m. But like I always say, people think I joke, but I do honestly operate on East Coast time. Because TFR in America, because I've been on YouTube for years and always knowing that I've appealed to the American audience far more than I appeal to Scottish people. I'm the same as any other Scottish person. You can find a Kev Baker anywhere. So I think the accent is what keeps me going, folks. And listen, if it's the accent plus the stories that keep you coming back here, I don't care. As long as you find it worthy of your time, as long as it's good woo. And I hope I've given you plenty to help you not get to sleep tonight. And if you hear something scratching and scraping, maybe panting, always remember the tale of the 8-foot man in the dog costume. Never forget it, ladies and gents, never forget it. Keep your minds open. How's it go? Keep your mind open. Keep looking for the woo, but not to the point where your brain turns to black goo. Three shows out of 3. We are Uri.